Thank you. Thank you. A little bit confused here. So, the knowledge on the cultural development of the second half of the third millennium BC in northeastern Italy has been enriched in recent years thanks to the discoveries of both settlements and funerary sites, some published exhaustively, others still under study. The new documentation, however, does not seem to have substantially clarified the interpretative framework of the cultural development of this area, which still remains not well defined, in my opinion. In our opinion. Against the background of an earlier Copper Age substratum that was very regionally structured and poorly characterized from the point of view of material culture, new cultural aspects that were also rather fuzzy emerged. In this context, the presence of the bell beaker stands out, which, despite showing influences from the other European areas of the phenomenon, nevertheless seems to maintain a certain regional identity. As for northern Italy in general, most of the bell beaker sites probably associated with are associated with settlement, and in just a few cases have buildings being found indicating the overall poverty of such structures and of the settlements themselves. As for the central part of northern Italy, the best documented sites are located in Lombardy region. Montecovolo, Trescore Balneario, and Brescia San Polo. These are the evidence, the plan. As for northeastern Italy, the current state of knowledge regarding bell beaker settlements is not greatly different from that outlined nearly 20 years ago. In Veneto, the highest concentrations of sites occurs along the Veronese alpine foothills with an east-west distribution. New data from rescue excavations in Emilia and Romagna have improved our knowledge regarding both bell beaker settlements and funerary aspects. In Emilia, an excavation south of the city of Parma, Strada Margherita, have yielded some new information which may be added to that from Reggio Emilia sites of Rubiera and Sant'Ilario d'Enza. These two settlements were both located next to river channels and near woodlands, but the structural evidence is scarce in both cases. The collective evidence suggests short-lived occupation phases with woodland clearance, intense crop cultivation, and animal raising. The settlements seem to have been rather unsophisticated, with farming-based economies tied to extensive slash and burn deforestation. A more recent discovery on the floodplain of Castenaso, località Stellina, near Bologna, produced 3 rectangular structures orientated northwest-southeast. The finds date to fairly late bell beaker period, and 2 radiocarbon dates are available, 2196 to 1901, 2031 to 1876 Cal BC. Close to the Stellina site, there is a new site with similar structures. This is Castenaso via Tosarelli. In Romagna, a recent excavation yielded particularly significant results at a settlement in Provezza di Cesena, distinguished by complex stratigraphic sequence and a detailed series of phases featuring diverse building types, proving that it had been occupied for a lengthy period. The settlement was located in a wetland environment in an area crossed by 2 watercourses and several canals. Phase 2 is pre-beaker in date. In phase 3, the first bell beakers items appear and show significant contacts with central Italy, especially the Florence area. Finds from phases 4 and 5 are predominantly typical of late Copper Age, early Bronze Age transition, occasionally with late bell beaker ornament present in early Bronze Age forms. Occupation of the settlement came to an end during the first phase of the early Bronze Age. Set in a basin crossed by watercourses, Provezza is unusual in that settlements are normally found on low hills near rivers. Here, the water flow had to be constantly controlled and the ditches kept clear. The end of the water management led to the demise of the settlement itself. Until a few years ago, Beaker burials were extremely rare in northern Italy. The funerary sites to be attributed to Beakers were brought to light at the end of the 19th century in the province of Brescia. Here, the example of Santa Cristina di Fiesse. Two others were Cadimarco and Roccolo Bresciani. They were characterized by inhumation burials in simple graves, which in some respects could recall the ritual of the Remedello necropolis. However, the relevance to distant cultural and ritual spheres is highlighted, as well as by presence of the typical Beaker, by the association of pottery and weapons or something be called weapons, in the Beaker tombs, which in Remedello instead seem to be mutually exclusive, and by the presence of post holes at the corners of the graves, which suggest a mortuary house covering the tomb, a funerary structure known in Central European Beaker burial sites. Some C14 dates available for the Remedello necropolis overlap with the spread of the Beaker phenomenon in northern Italy, and this data could argue in favor of the presence of different rituals within the same territory. In recent years, the funerary evidence of the Beaker phenomenon has been enriched by some new sites which allow us to more clearly outline the ritual and the chronological development. The new sites brought to light are all located in the Po Valley Plain. Two Beaker pit burials, partially preserved, were brought to light in Goito, Sacca, among the tombs of a Lombard age necropolis, which unfortunately had largely removed the copper age deposit. Rest in pieces. A bell beaker decorated in maritime style was recovered from both pits. A site of great interest is Cava Quaresima near Parma in Emilia, for which at the moment only preliminary information is available. Here, around 40 burials divided into small groups were brought to light, some of which can be dated back to the Bronze Age and others to the Bell Beaker. Here, group 2 and burials indicated with a blue arrow. The funerary structures are pit burials and ring ditch burials. The cremation is also attested. One burial is outlined with post holes, probably a mortuary house, and contains just 186 grams of burnt and unburnt bones. That is a small part of a single or more individuals. Grave goods from Group 2 include bell beakers, single-handled jugs, copper owls, flint flakes, and the deer antler. No C14 date is available so far, as far as I know. The genetic analysis of a female individual who had a bell beaker as a grave good showed no traces of the step component, which were instead present in other individuals of the necropolis and is in total genetic continuity with the previous Neolithic populations. A rescue archaeological excavation in Nogorolork and the low plain south of Verona brought to light a very important large burial site located within and on the sides of the ancient riverbed and used between late Copper Age and Bronze Age. Significantly important are 8 bell beaker burials, radiocarbon dated altogether between 2500 and 2200 Cal BC. Both inhumation and cremation are attested in 2 cases, tomb 14 and 39, in the same tomb, inhumation and cremation. Each bell beaker burial, both inhumation and cremation, has similar grave goods: a beaker, a single-handled jug, and a flint dagger blade. Only the female subject in tomb 38 has no dagger blade. At Nogorole, Rocca, the buried were laid in a crouched position on their left side with the body oriented north-south. The position of the finds is not uniform. The vases are generally placed near the feet, while the position of the dagger blades is variable, next to the pelvis, under the knee, behind the skull. Tomb 34, which should contain more cremated individuals, differs from the others because in addition to the usual presence of a bell beaker and a single-handled jug, it has yielded some copper elements: a dagger blade, an awl, a spiral, and some saltaleoni, that is a coiled wire forming cylindrical pendants or beads. Significant data on the late bell beaker age come from Parma via Guido Rossi, where 2 multiple burials with mortuary houses delimited by a foundation trench and post holes were brought to light. In tomb 1, 2 individuals, 1 female and 1 male, were placed in the bipolar position. Individual A, only partially preserved, is an adult woman bent on her right side, oriented south-north. Individual B is an adult male bent on his left side and oriented north-south. Inside the tomb, a flint dagger blade and a copper awl were brought to light. Near his feet were two single-handed jugs, one of which was undecorated and one with the beaker decoration, and a fragment of a bell beaker. Numbers 1, 2, 3 in the slide. Two other pots, a single-handed undecorated jug and a bell beaker, had been placed near the opening of the tomb. Number 4, 5 in the slide. In tomb 2, 3 individuals were deposited side by side in a crouched position and with bipolar orientation. Individual A is an adult male, individual B a 15, 18 years old female, individual C an adult male. At the feet of the individual C, the subject C, there was a polypod vase containing a bell beaker and an undecorated jug, numbers 1, 2, 3 in the slide. Between the face of the individual C and the feet of the individual B was another bell beaker, number 4. In the area of the opening of the tomb, there was a large bowl with bell beaker decoration which contained an undecorated jug, 6, 7 in the slide. As for the general bell beaker funerary evidence, we can say that there are some parallels with the funerary rituals of the preceding Remedello culture. Elements which indicate a difference between bell beaker and Remedello funerary rituals are the biritualism, the bipolar orientation of the corpses, ring ditches, and mortuary houses. Within the grave, good metal artifacts continue to be rare. Very common is the presence of 1 or 2 beakers and handled jugs, decorated and undecorated. The two most important burial sites, Parma Guido Rossi and Novarola Rocca, have different chronology. Guido Rossi, 2996, 1939, Novarola Rocca, 2500, 2200. A more detailed picture of the bell beaker rituals will surely arise from analysis of the evidence of the recently discovered sites, together with the research on social complexity of the bell beakers groups. Moreover, the results of archaeogenetic investigation on human remains will surely contribute to clarify aspects of this dynamic. So, Cetina again. As said before, the bell beaker settlements give the picture of the structural and economic poverty. The networks of communication, relationship, and exchange seem to be not very active in a framework of low social complexity. Maybe this might be due to a persistence of the local traditional cooperation component. Quite paradoxically, relations, connections, and interactions seem to be more visible in cultural aspects, usually connected with bell beakers, but there are no bell beakers like this in Cetina. As you have seen in the previous communication, Cetina is usually connected with a kind of family air with the bell beakers. But of course, with the new definition, the new chronological framework we have had in this recent research has changed a little bit our idea of how could be, which could be the sense of the relationship between Italian bell beakers or North Italian bell beakers and the Adriatic styles or culture. The chronology of Cetina, of course, is the second half of the third millennium. And in the recent publications, Cetina elements in northern Italy has been recognized both by different scholars and colleagues here present here today. This is a map published by Giulia Recchia, and there are at least 4 sites in northern Italy: Velturno in Alto Adige, Monte Mezzana, Monte Sei, and Monte Madarosa, and they are called locally elaborated pottery styles. And also published by Stasio Forenbacher, the distribution map of Cetina. They are considered one site, Monte Sei di Serso, closely comparable, and Monte Mezzana reminiscent. Quite correct. This is a summary of the evidence we have here in Trentino, in this region. So this is the upper row, and this These are from Montesei di Serso. This is a mix with Montesei di Serso and Monte Mezzana. This is from a very new site discovered recently and excavated quite in a good way. Another site that you have already seen is the cult area of Velturno-Tanzgasse. We have also not only the materials that could be attributed to with some relation with Cetina, but also very peculiar structures that are burial ritual mounds and made in stone. And this could be very interesting at the end of my presentation to discuss also not only pottery connections, but other types of connections, because we have here, for example, documentation evidence of a secondary cremations or the manipulation of cremated bones. In this site of Vervaux-Chaslier, where this is the element called Cetina, we have a settlement and also a burial place, burial site together. And the chronology is between the end of the Copper Age and the beginning of the transition from Copper Age and Early Bronze Age. So you have here very interesting items like a crucible for metals, very strange potsherds, elbow handle pottery, Cetina, so-called Cetina item, a sandstone grooved abrader, a flint arrows, and these very peculiar pendants, rod bone pendants, which are usually connected with bell beakers, but we don't have in our area where we have the great majority of these items. There is no connections with the bell beakers. We know that, for example, in Austria, in Germany, many of these are in bell beaker burials. And so this is very important. The date of this site, Vela Valbusa, is a burial, an inhumation, a burial, and is between the end of the Copper Age, the formative area, for the formative phase of the Early Bronze Age. This is very interesting, probably the last 2 centuries of the 3rd millennium BC. This has a very large distribution from the north to the east to the south. It's very interesting to say that these bone pendants are found also in Greece, in Peloponnese, we have distribution that go from southern Italy, Apulia, from Sardinia, one is in Ivory. They are widely distributed across Europe. And they arrived to the Peloponnese, where examples of rod pendants have been found at Korakou, Ziguris, and Lerna IV. One of the most significant European contexts in terms of the distribution of rod pendants is the Central European bell beaker cultural environment, in particular the region lying between Thuringia and Rhineland. We have in France, but also maybe it could be quite hazardous, but in Boscombe Down is not like ours, but it resemblance we can, but it is in the well-known big burial. But anyway, we can. In Vervaux, it's very important because we have a new rite for the period, for the Early Bronze Age, for the final phase of the Copper Age, the Early Bronze Age. Is cremation. Cremation inside the spots, and we have 15 burials. Material, we have pottery, we have copper owls, and this is a very important information for us for the first time we have cremation, that this is a date which is valid for both the settlement and the burial place, burial area, and inside one of these tombs we have found also a fragment of a brassard. It's very quite interesting to see that in some of the Peloponnese or Western Greek sites where this kind of it's another point. A very interesting point is that in this same site, in this context, this belt buckle, pendant, brassard has been found. Is in red deer antler, not in bone. And it's very nice because it resembles very much a decoration of the bell beaker, you know, with the parallel lines and bands with the points inside. It's very interesting. We need more studies, more investigation about this. But you can see that it resembles very much the Ljubljana bone wrist guard or buckle belt or whatever you can call. This is the drawing in the Koroshet's publication and the picture in Legis. And you see also other items that probably resembles with a bell beaker component. But we don't have only pottery, we have also metallurgy. You see here a mold from Montesè di Serso for a shaft hole hex you have already seen, and the others are the same type and coming from very close to the site of Montesè. These are all made in pure copper and from local sources. Moreover, we have, you remember probably, this very special kind of copper owls. We have two in Montesè di Serso and one in Montemezzana. I thank Gilberto Artioli and Ivan Angelini. They are conducting chemical and isotope analysis. They are pure copper, probably from local ore deposits. These are very peculiar copper owls, and usually have been called the Ig type. But we have more than, because there are 4 in Ig or Ljubljana or there, and we have more than in Ljubljana. We have a lot, as you have already seen, in Piglonerkopf in Alto Adige, and they are together with miniaturized copper shaft hole axes. And they have been interpreted as ingots, but they could have also a ideological value, in my opinion. Similar items are known in Austria, and they are probably produced with copper coming from the South Alpine sources, like this in Piglonerkopf. Why I showed you the metallurgy? Because between the first and the second half of the third millennium, we have a clear picture of metal production here in Trentino. You have here the ore deposits, and the other, the red one, are archaeoproduction for copper. They have here just a couple of examples. Riparo Gaban near Trento, the layer C5, C6. We have also a C14 dating with the copper slag. And then from another site in the Adige Valley, Riparo Marchi, fire structures excavated in soil with this C14 dating. And then also another rock shelter used for smelting and for produce of copper objects. So, barbed wire, barbelé, Wickelschnur, Wrigchester technique, I don't know. We have to find a kind of share the definition of some techniques, because in my opinion, there are many different techniques, but we use different. I found that in Northern Italy, we have a very special technique that was unusual for us, and for a great part of the beaker world. This has been considered, since David Clark, so barbed wire production, a phase of the bell beaker production, late phase. So, but if you make a comparison between these items, is out of context in Roncoferraro Mantov in the Pau Plain, I think it's very, very clear that the techniques from Ljubljana are very, very similar. Techniques, not technique. And so I call this barbelé. And because with Olivier Lemercier, with other French colleagues, we went to check the French production of the barbelé, but we can call also barbed wire. But this is not coming from, probably from France. It's very difficult. I think that the most clear connection is with the Ljubljana production of these styles. We have not just this example, but also some sites like Bernardine di Coriano, and you can see here different techniques, but also always remember techniques and decorative motifs of Ljubljana, or what you can, and also from a Verona, località Bongiovanna, is very clear from the datings from Bongiovanna that if this is a real barbelé, is the second part of the 3rd millennium BC. Is not the end, probably, of the bell beaker phenomenon. Is something different. Or it could be a phenomenon. The barbelé, Beakersnur, barbed wire is not just border in the last phase of the bell beaker. The last thing, in a few minutes, I have already talked about a very peculiar burial rite for newborns and fetuses used in Trentino along the Adige Valley. It's very peculiar, the area here, and used between the end of the Copper Age and the beginning of the Early Bronze Age. It's very peculiar, limited in space in this region, and it finds not a lot of relation with other closed areas. It's very interesting. We have found this this burial pot close to Trento, in La Vela here. This is the Peter's burial. And, sorry, okay. Inside there was the small bones of the newborn, or a fetus. And you see here the C14 dates. It was the bottom was erased in order to probably to leave the remains of the body go to the earth. And this is a special cult area. A special cult area, not just funerary area, is a cult area probably connected with probably, we can suggest, with some kind of rite for ancestors, because we have also here many handfuls of cremated bones just put on the surface and on the mound. Here we had also mounds, and it's very interesting because, if I remember well, in Cetina also there are mounds with scattered of cremated bones, and it's very interesting. We have not only pottery talking to us, but we have also some other archaeological, ideological connection. You see here, these cult areas were used for a long period, for long periods, and see here how developed during the years, during the centuries. And it's very interesting that this site is outside. You know that babies and fetuses could be considered as ancestors in some simple societies. But simple societies, which is the society of these areas, of these places, is finished. So my time is to the end. I would like just to finish with 1 minute of a kind of literary suggestion. So this is the beginning of the Les Fleurs Bleues of Raymond Queneau, in English, of course. And I feel very similar. On the 25th of September, 1264, break of the day, the Duke of Vosges appeared at the summit of the keep of his castle, there to consider, be it ever so little, the historical situation. It was somewhat confused. A few odd remnants of the past were still lying around here and there, rather messily. On the banks of a nearby gully, 2 Huns were camping. Quite near them, a Gaul, a head one perhaps, was boldly immersing his feet in the fresh running water. On the horizon were outlined the flabby silhouettes of tired Romans, neither Norsemen, Old Franks, and Christmas Carolingians. A few Normans were drinking Calvados. I feel very nice. So, changing characters of the story, I would like to be, for today, the Duke of Riva del Garda. On the 25th of October, 2023, just after the coffee break, the Duke of Riva del Garda appeared at the summit of the podium, there to consider, be it ever so little, the prehistorical situation. It was somewhat confused. A few old remnants of the past were still lying around here and there, rather messily. On the banks of the nearby gully, 2 Neolithics were camping. Quite near them, a Balkan from Vucelo, perhaps, was boldly immersing his feet in the fresh running water. On the horizon were outlined the flabby silhouettes of tired statue stili, neither Remedelos or Ljubljana fellows or Cetina women. A few Beakers were drinking Slivovitz. So much history, said the Duke of Riva del Garda to the Duke of Riva del Garda. So much history, just for a few puns and a few anachronisms. I think it's pathetic. Shan't we ever get away from it? Maybe yes, maybe not. Thank you.